Hello, John Rocha. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Excited.
this is going to be a lot of fun. I've talked to quite a few Schmoedown people on this. Well, this is about Schmoedown personalities, but I've had quite a few so far. And
Mm.
but you, I will say, and this is not. I've told you this in the past, so you know I'm
Hmm.
not just pumping your head up full of you
God
you
forbid.
are you're my favorite character in the
Oh,
show.
thanks, man.
And you're one of the reasons that I got into the Schmoedown as hard as I have.
Mm.
And again, I've told you this before, but anyone who may not be listening, I didn't understand the character aspect of it, and when it first came out, I didn't care for you because I thought that
Oh
you,
yeah.
John Rocha, were a heel like that, and
Oh
and I
yeah.
I, I never grasped the reality of it, and once I realized it, fell in love. With your personality off character from Schmoedown, and the character, of course, is just amazing. Now that I realize it's a character,
Yeah, yeah. It helps if people
yeah,
because people certainly went crazy about that when I first started doing the character. I've talked about it before. Like, not a lot of people understood what I was trying to do, what I was trying to create, what I was trying to make. And walking into, in the first few years of this, we were bringing in people who were really into movie trivia, who were reviewers, who were critics, who were people from the space. And a lot of them weren't professional wrestling people. So, Christian, when we had that conversation, I remember still distinctly my old place. At night, we were having the conversation. He's like, I need someone who's going to be able to take the hits. I need someone who's going to be able to be a heel and be looked at and hated and whatever. And I was like, I'm your man. I'm your man because I love wrestling. I love pro wrestling, rather, and I enjoy the aspect of it all. So, in some ways, I think Christian was very lucky that I was there to kind of walk the path or blaze the path of what it means to be a heel. And as I kind of am looking back on my career now, as I'm ready to probably walk away from it, I'm a little more accepting of my role in the creation and in the construction of the Schmoedown as we have it today. And I will say this, you're catching me at a time in my approach to the game where I don't take people insulting the game, people insulting what we built, the parameters of what we constructed in the game very well, because in a way you're insulting me. And I don't like that. And so when people cry about the heel aspects or the promos that kind of venture a little close to the skin, those are the things that sold the game. Those, if you look at the views we had in the early days, 300,000, I mean, that was because people bought into the storylines, bought into the characters, bought into the heel and face aspect of it all. And I see some fans and some competitors trying to beat that out of the game. And to me, then you're just turning this into a simple competition that's going to be boring, and you could just go watch that in a bar. This is that extra aspect of drama and character and all of that. I think is essential to the success of the game. And people trying to take this out of the game, don't be surprised if you wake up one day and those same people are realizing that the game is no longer being watched at the level that it was before. And I think that's the danger we walk down when we start to walk away from the things that made this game what it is.
very well said,
Hmm.
very well said. And after just hearing you, the way you word things is very
Mhm.
well done, and that makes me even more excited to get to know more about you outside of the and because that's really all I know of you.
Yeah.
And the name of this show is From Birth to Schmoedown. So, John Rocha, where were you born?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Jefferson Hospital there in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Yeah, there for a year, born to my immigrant mother, who my father had been kind of stuck in Bolivia handling some stuff while he was there and was unable to come back. So he was not there at my birth. It was my mom handling it solo because she's a tough piece of iron. And I think she instilled that in me as well from a young age.
How long was it until your father was able to join you both
I think it
here?
was 6 months. It was
6
6 months
months.
before my
Yeah.
father was finally able to get out of Bolivia and fly back to America. Also an immigrant as well, able to come back and be there for me. So from the beginning, there was this feeling of like, it's a hard scrabble. You got to fight, you got to push, you got to, kind of, the things aren't always going to work out the way you think. You've just got to put yourself in the best position possible. So from the beginning, that was something that both my mom and dad instilled in me since I was a child.
Was there any specific reason Philadelphia was chosen?
Well, I think no, just that I guess my mom had immigrated here through a nursing program at the time back in the 60s. They were bringing people over from different countries to become nurses, become nursing home care workers and what have you. My mom happened to go the nurse route, and from Miami out, she was taken to Philadelphia. And my dad happened to end up in Philadelphia with his brothers. There was a strong Latino contingent there of people who were emigrating here and going to Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, and establishing roots and getting to understand how the country worked. So, and my parents met on my uncle's. My uncle was taking my mom out for a date, and my dad met my mom at a get together for the family on that date. And I think my mom slipped my dad her number, and that was that. And four dates later, they were married. So
really,
yeah,
that's amazing.
And when you know.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too much into this as far as personal stuff, but the uncle, how did he take that?
The uncle, well, I think I think he took it in the way that because he'd only gone out with her for one date, so I don't know if he'd had any kind of sensibilities about that overall. I didn't sense from him that this was something that, I've never gotten the story from his side of things that it was an issue, because my mom and him never had any issues going forward. There was never any problems with the family get together. So I never heard of anything like that. So they seem to get along just fine.
Dude, that's awesome. 4 dates. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Fourth date, my dad asked her to marry him, and they were married quickly after. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, wait. So the proposal came 4 dates after
4 dates, not 4 weeks. 4 dates. There's a difference.
Now, what was the span of time in those 4 dates?
I think 2.5 to 3 months, maybe 2.5 to 3 months, and then boom, it was there. Yeah.
Okay, and then how long after the proposal was the actual wedding?
Oh, not long after. Maybe 6 months after that was the actual wedding, and then I was conceived. I imagine around the wedding night, because it was 9 months later that I was born. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was your father's occupation?
My dad initially was a house painter. He started his own business in this country. He didn't know how to paint houses at all. He learned and he taught himself, and he was a hustler and in terms of knocking on doors and offering to paint for free people's rooms and people's things, so he could get the experience and see if he could really do it. As an immigrant to this country, there wasn't a lot, and my dad came with a half-finished college education for other reasons that I won't get into, but he had to kind of build his own life, build his own career, and so he had a child to take care of, a wife to take care of. And so he'd done odd jobs like working at convenience stores, being a teller, being a convenience store clerk, all those kinds of things to kind of stay alive and survive and make money and, qualify for green card status and all of that. But when I was born, he knew he had to get a little more solid job with the potential for more money. So he started a painting business, ORI Construction, which is the reverse of his initials, his last name and started going around, knocking on doors, driving around neighborhoods and seeing if there was paint chipping off the side of houses or whatever, and offering to paint, and eventually got a name. And people started to, and he took pictures of everything he did. So he was able, and back in the old days when you'd have to wait for the processing to come through in the photo mat. And so he'd go to stores and go to places and show his portfolio of the painting that he had done, and built a name. And so was able by word of mouth to build up his business that way.
That's always the best feeling when you've earned something that way by literally hustling, walking door to door, ground up. Because I mean, I'll admit, even myself, for a long time, not just this in some aspects, but in anything in my life, there are things that I just I really want, but for whatever reason, I'm not motivated enough to hustle for it. You know what I mean? And it's not, there's no sense of entitlement. It's just one of those,
Right.
I think maybe actually, which is a really stupid way to think, especially when you're aware of it, is just to kind of think, it'll happen someday. But it
No, that is not the way to
doesn't
think of
happen
it.
unless you make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to absolutely respect that hustle. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
Where did your love for movies and stuff come from?
Well, I think because I've said this before, so pardon me for people who are bored by it, but I think it was because my mom and dad, being immigrants to this country, had to work multiple jobs. You know, my dad did do the painting in the daytime, but then would take occasional jobs at night doing other things, working for other stores, kind of picking up where he could pick up stuff. And my mom as well would have to. She went back to nursing eventually, and so was trying to kind of, they were working two jobs, and eventually my mom became a hairdresser out of nursing because that was a schedule she could create, and she could conduct her own schedule and then be able to be home for the kids and stuff like that. And so, but majority of the time they were gone. So I had to entertain myself at a very young age, like around 9 or 10, I was in charge of my brother and sister. And so it was very important for me to make sure they were fed, make sure they were taken care of, and blah, blah, blah. But the only entertainment I had after I did my homework was to watch TV. So I would just plop myself in front of the television, and my parents as well on the weekends would plop me in front of the television to watch all this stuff. And the reason they did it is because they had suffered a large amount of racism in this country because of the accent of their English. And so they didn't want me to have any accent, any Spanish accent at all with my English. So someone had told him from a very young age, for me, that get him to start talking English early in his formative years so he won't have that accent. So for them, they thought, well, plopping me in front of the television to watch all these American shows and movies was the best way to get me to speak English without an accent. And it worked, as you can tell. And I was also bilingual in Spanish. So they were teaching me Spanish at the same time as I was learning English from the television. And that's where I started to fall in love with movies, because they would transport me into so many places that were incredible and take me out of the situation that we were in, the kind of, I wouldn't say poverty, but we weren't making a lot of money, but we were surviving. And so it was a way to transport myself into these fantastical worlds and fall in love with the idea of movies and the power of movies.
Do you remember the first movie that you saw in the theater?
In the theater, probably Pinocchio. I would say Pinocchio with my mom. She took me to see it in Alexandria, Virginia, I believe, because we'd moved to Virginia by this time. And I remember going to see it in the theater, remember the feeling of the donkey situation, the whale, all of that, and then being let out by my mom afterwards and just being unable to stop talking about it on the drive home. I was just blown away by what that animation could show, the journey it could take you on as well.
Now, by this time, you say you're living in Virginia, but what, Alexandria?
Northern Virginia, yeah. A place called Coolmore, which is near Falls Church. So right around that, Virginia. Because we moved there, I think when I was 2 years old, we moved out of Philadelphia down to Virginia, and right around that area, Falls Church, Columbia Pike, Alexandria, Arlington, right around this area, we moved around a little bit to kind of establish ourselves. We didn't have a car for the first 2 years that I was alive, so we had to walk everywhere. And so my dad, mom would take jobs or would take the bus to jobs and things of that nature. So I I remember just being walked we'd go to the monuments. We take the subway downtown, and my dad would have to walk. I remember him taking me up to the top of the Washington Monument on his shoulders, because back then you had to take the stairs. You could take the elevator to a certain level, but then you took the stairs all the way to the top. Now, of course, you can go all the way to the top, but back then you had. So I remember that being a thing for a very long time. And then we got ourselves a car, and then eventually moved to the place that I was talking about for a little while, and then we moved to a suburb when I was 9 years old, called Dale City, Virginia, which some of you who've seen The Purge know that city. It's talked about in The Purge, which was a really mind-blowing thing to discover.
Now, when you would go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I almost made an assumption that when you were a kid, you would stay up late at night and go out to the living room and watch TV late at night. And I almost made that assumption because Um, so did you ever do that kind of thing? Because I used to do that, and I used to like they would have double feature horror movies on
Mm,
like midnight to 4 a.m. and stuff like that.
right, right.
And I could never watch anything like that. I'm just kind of curious. I guess the overall thing is,
Mm.
were there ever things that you weren't allowed to watch or you were steered away from as far as maybe content or horror or
Oh
anything
yeah, horror
that
was a
stuck
big,
around?
yeah, horror was a big no-no in the house. We were not allowed to have it because my parents were religious people, and so to them, I think at the time they felt like bringing that kind of energy into the house, which is connected to the devil and Satan, all that kind of stuff, was not a positive energy to have in the house. So I was not allowed to watch horrors. I remember I did something like that, what you're talking about, when my the lady they'd occasionally go on date nights or go hang out with the reunion with the aunts and uncles and stuff, and so they'd hire my my godmother, a lady named Senora Lucila, who was like 71 years old, and she would fall asleep when she was taking care of us. So sometimes, yes, I would sneak down and try to watch something until she woke up. And then when she woke up, you're like, oh, and run back upstairs. But I remember one time she fell asleep, left the TV on when I was young, and the late night channel 7, I think it was ABC at the time, they showed Nosferatu. And I remember sneaking down and peering through the coffee table and seeing him come out of the shadows like that. And I remember screaming and just running upstairs and just crying and totally messed up for me. So much that my parents came home and like my dad had to sleep with me in the bed because I was like so freaked out by it. So that gave them even more impetus to not have any horror in the house until I was older and I had my own TV and my own VCR and could watch what I wanted to watch. But yeah, for a very long time, like Rosemary's Baby, I did not see till till recently for the cinephiles because that was a film that my dad and mom both felt that was calling Satan into the world, and so it was like for them that's how they viewed horror. And they weren't simple people. My parents were smart, but they just for them that is what it felt like to them. So I had to respect that.
Yeah, I had a similar thing. My parents are they're religious, good
Hmm.
people, um, and so horror was a no. But
Yeah,
they sat me down and showed me the movie Jaws when I was 5, and they
yeah, I remember that.
were aware of what it was.
Yeah,
Uh, but so they were like that. Dude. They're like, okay,
yeah,
we're doing Jaws, and that's why I don't like to be in water by myself.
yeah.
Because of that movie, and staying up or sneaking up to watch a late night horror movie. That's how I saw Nightmare on Elm Street the first time it came out. I
Oh
was
wow.
old for that too, and for that, I'm not ashamed to say I'm 42 now,
Yeah.
John. I still will not take a bath. I will not sit in the bath. I will take.
Really?
Oh, I'll shower all day and night, but I
I
will
hope
not
so.
take a bathtub full of water. I will not
Wow.
do it, dude.
Okay. I can
So,
totally respect that. It's a scary situation.
yeah. But the funny one is Bambi when I was a kid, that
Oh,
made me cry so bad that I
wow.
absolutely loathe 99% of Disney animated movies.
Because of Bambi?
It
Oh
was
my
so
gosh,
sad.
that is
And
funny.
Dumbo, all he
Yeah.
wanted was a friend, dude. Come on. Both of those just ruined me as a child.
Okay. I can respect
Uh,
that.
it's crazy, man. But other than movies
Yeah.
and that form of entertainment, what kind of things were you doing at this age outside of the house to occupy yourself?
Oh, hanging out with friends. I guess at that age, yeah, just hanging out with friends, playing marbles. What else? Just kind of living my life and doing the best I can, doing the best I could rather at the time, just kind of trying to, kind of exist and get to know kids and running off and playing out in the creek and getting on our bikes and riding out for hours and just exploring the whole world and as much as we could. And it was, nowadays everyone's so scared, and rightfully so, for their kids to be possibly abducted or whatever, or something terrible happened to them far from home. So, but at that time, it was like you were gone from 3 to 6 p.m. You know, you could go and do whatever as long as you were home by dinner. So for me, that's what I remember most distinctly about that time, and getting to know kids and trying to be friends with some of them, or trying to find friendships and all of that. So yeah, very much that was the approach to life at the time.
Now, are you at this point in your life? You know,
Mm.
you're loving the movies, you're enjoying
Yeah.
the chips that you're making. Have you thought at this point, first of all, about what age are we at here? And second, have you thought at all about what you might want to do as a profession in the?
Oh, I mean, not. I mean, I don't remember as a kid distinctly what profession. I just remember that I was into the arts very early. I mean, I was watching Shakespeare on PBS when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. I would watch whatever they could put. I would watch Monty Python. I would watch musicals that were on. So I was very wowed by the spectacle and comedy and drama and all of that. So I just remember being very into that, but I don't distinctly remember wanting to necessarily pursue acting until I got to high school. And that's where I really kind of, it became clear to me what I felt I should be doing. And so in high school, my sophomore year, I auditioned for a play, Pirates of Penzance. I got into it. Some people were encouraging me to audition. I was on the fence about it. And I remember distinctly, like, there was a moment where I was standing in front of my locker and I go, well, if I leave to get on the bus, I don't know if I'll ever be able to have the courage to try to become an actor again.
Yeah.
But if I don't leave and I stay, at least I'll find out if I can do this or not. So that's what I did. I stuck around and I happened to get cast. And it was great. It was a lot of it fun. And then from there, that kind of sparked me wanting to act as much as possible, much to my parents' chagrin, because I think my parents wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer, as you know, as immigrant parents do. They want you to have a secure job in this country and what have you. But acting was what kind of really inspired me and motivated me and excited me and brought the juices. So being in front of a crowd, being on a stage, and having them in the palm of your hand as you took them on this journey was always a great experience for me. Always something that I loved. So, yeah.
What was the name of your high school and what was the mascot?
Garfield High School. And they've changed the mascot since then. I think they just recently, but it was the Indians, the Garfield Indians, and I'm pretty sure they're changing it. And I've seen some of the alumni going crazy about it on the message boards. But you know, there's nothing's more constant in life than change and progress. And I think it's good that they're changing the name. But that was my high school in Dale City, Virginia.
Have they chosen a new name yet?
I,
Because
I really don't know if they've chosen a new name yet. I know that I just happened to be on a message board a few weeks ago and they were arguing about it, but I hadn't seen that they'd necessarily chosen a new name yet.
if it's not cats, then I'm just gonna lose my mind. The cats, Garfield the cats.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, maybe.
As soon as you said Garfield, I was like, please be like some sort of a wild cat or something.
I can see that.
But yes, it's got to be some sort of a cat.
That's funny, man. I like that.
Oh, and you continue doing high school plays all the way through your high school years?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would do one acts. I would do the musicals. I remember being in Anything Goes. I remember doing a one act called Where Have All the Lightning Bugs Gone, if I remember correctly, which was a Vietnam one act play. I believe I believe that's what it's called. God, man, it's way back when. But I was essentially a guy who met a girl on a park bench, and it was my last day before they shipped me out to Vietnam. And I'm trying to impress her because I just met her. So I'm trying to, kind of flirt with her and maybe steal a kiss or something through the whole play. And I'm putting on different characters as I try to entertain her and try to keep her sitting at the bench and try to keep her talking to me and try to maybe eventually win her over. And so it was a heck of a challenge challenge. And it was something that when the teacher cast me, I was pretty blown away by them casting me, but it was because they enjoyed in my audition that I came in with these prepared characters that were in essence influenced by some of the things I'd seen at the time on TV or in the movies. You know, I was a news reporter, I was a comedian, I was this or that. And it ends with her reading my letter to her before I died in Vietnam. So I just remember just being attracted to the more darker stuff, to the stuff that had something to say. So even from a young age, I was very involved in art that had something to say, you know.
I don't know, but I would just kind of assume on the see. I think this is a safer assumption. I love you, man. I just as soon as I start, I would assume, and I see your face. I love well, I just would assume that given where you are today with entertainment, and you were so passionate about plays and being on stage in high school, that at this time you're probably already wanting to go to college for something that has to do with film.
Yeah, but I was also in the Model United Nations, and so I was big into the Model United. Like I was good at it, and I won awards, and I loved it. International. Once again, I've always been split between the guy who's into international politics and learning about the world, and the guy who's into the arts. So that's been my split. Oh, and then sports right there in the middle. So this has always been my three interests in life: politics or international relations, arts, and sports. And so at the time when I'm coming out of high school, I don't have that guidance necessarily to go be an actor. Like I had teachers who supported me, but there wasn't really a system there that was like, okay, these are the colleges you need to be applying for. This is how you need to apply for them. These are the monologues you need to prepare. This is the situation you need to be in. And so in that way, I wasn't necessarily guided towards that. And so in default, and to be honest with you, because I didn't have the guts or the balls to pursue it, because I was afraid to be poor my whole life at the time, I succumbed to the little bit of the pressure from my family to pursue something else that was more secure. And since I was good at Model United Nations, I thought I'd study international relations, international studies. And I went to a college for a couple of years that I don't want to name, that fucked me over. And I had a terrible experience there, just a terrible experience, because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And I was failing out. I joined a fraternity in a desperate moment, and it really wasn't the right fit for me in so many ways. I saw so many things that I shouldn't have seen, terrible things that I shouldn't have seen, and that really rocked me to my moral core. And I just came away from that experience super depressed. And that was my first bout with depression, to be honest with you. Now that I look back and having done all the therapy, I kind of, became very clear to me as I was going through the stuff I went through in 2016 and 2017, as I was healing from the suicide attempt. I realized that was my first bout with depression. I'd put on a crap ton of weight. I was failing at school. I was working a side job as an assistant manager at a video store. And I hated my life. I hated everything about the school. I hated the way the school treated me. And then I hated the things that what happened and what things I saw. And so I just wasn't happy. And the last semester before I joined the military, which is what I did a play behind my parents' back. I loved it. And that's right when I said, I don't need to be here to do this. I need to be doing something else, but I also need to put some discipline back into my life because I'm not happy and something terrible is going to happen. I know it. And so a recruiter came into the store who I had known for quite some time as a customer. And he came up to the counter. I remember distinctly, I was working by myself that night because I was assistant manager. It was a small store. And I said to him, "Hey, how quickly can you put me on a bus to basic training if I come and sign up tomorrow morning?" And he said, "I can have you on a bus in 2 weeks." So without my parents' permission, at 19 years old, I went with I think my friend at the time, Robbie. I've lost touch with him since. Robbie and I drove over there at Featherstone Plaza. There was a recruiting station there. I went in there. I took the ASVAB. I think I scored like a 96. So I pretty much had my choice of whatever I wanted to get into. And in the end, I chose the Army simply because that guy recruited me. And then, in retrospect, I should have done Air Force. That probably would have set me up in better straight. But I did the Army. And I did it because I needed to lose weight. I needed to feel better about myself, and I needed to instill discipline in my life. And that's what I did. And my parents were absolutely against it. They were so afraid. And of course, the first Gulf War broke out while I was in, so they were even more afraid. But yeah, I did that, and it was a great decision. And I will never regret my time in the military. I'll never denigrate my time in the military. I had a great 8 years in the service.
That's good. Thank you for your service. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Now 8 years. Wow, that's longer than I was thinking. 4 years in my mind, because I know that you were in the military, but I just was, for whatever reason, kind of thinking 4 years probably. But 8 years is that's a hefty devotion.
Yeah.
What was your rank? I mean,
let's
in ranks or anything like that. I don't know.
Well, let's clarify. I mean, I wasn't full. Like the first 6 months, I was full time with basic and AIT, and then I was a reservist for the rest of the time I was in. So I was constantly working a job and also serving, doing my 2 weeks and doing my weekend every month and doing all those things. So what it did for the first 6 months is it really straightened me up, and got me to understand how important it was. Got me to believe in myself too, because being in the military, drill sergeants, if you get a good one, and I've been very lucky to have some pretty good mentors in life. The drill sergeant in AIT, when I was there in Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia, I had come to him within the first week, because when I was in basic, the drill sergeant there, Drill Sergeant Desjardins, I think his name Desjardins, he put me in charge of the squad, of third squad. And I was mad because I didn't want to be in charge of anybody. I was there on my own journey, and I was focusing on me, right?
Right.
But he sensed possibly that I had some leadership potential. And so he put me in charge of the squad. So I did it through basic, and got us, in a good position, got us to be on top of stuff, blah, blah, leading a faction, so to speak. And so when I got to AIT, I pulled the drill sergeant aside, the 6'6" black guy, huge Drill Sergeant Thompson. He was an awesome dude. And I said to him, listen, I just want to be here for the next 3 months and do my work. And, I will give you everything I got, and I will learn all the stuff, and I'll be on time. I'll do all the PT. I'll do everything that, all the KP, everything I need to do. But I don't want to be in charge of anything anymore. So the motherfucker, the next day, that morning, he demotes the dude who was in charge of the squad and puts me in charge of the squad. And I went to him afterwards and I said, Drill Sergeant Thompson, did you misunderstand what I said last night? And he goes, Private, what you're going to learn in life is the people who should have power are the people who don't want the power, because they're the people who are going to be more judicious and fair. Now, there's something about what you said last night that just turned me around about you. And I think this is going to be a good lesson for you, because you've got that leadership instinct, but you're afraid of it. So I need you to embrace it. And this is a way of getting you to embrace it. And he was right, because being in charge of that squad was demanding, was tough. Some of those guys were alphas that did not want to be told what to do. So I had to figure out how to get them all to work as a unit. And it was a challenge. But it prepared me for other things going forward in life. So sometimes, people teach you lessons that you don't see coming. And you kind of have to give them their due, give them their respect for doing so. And when you get older and you understand why, it changes how you view the world and how you look at young people and how you treat them and guide them as well. So,
Now, you were working at the same time here. What kind of work were you doing?
What did I do? I managed bookstores for a long time. I would occasionally act at community theaters to kind of slowly work my way back into this idea of embracing becoming an actor again. And I wasn't happy walking away from it, but I knew I couldn't like fully commit myself to it until I was ready to commit myself to it. And at the same time, I was also going back to college through a community college at Northern Virginia Community College. And listen, let me tell you something. As great as the military was, it didn't build up my confidence to go back to school. Like, it built up my confidence to handle my life and be in charge of my life and do the things I need to do to survive in my life. But it didn't necessarily say to me, hey, go back to college. That was something that I kind of found myself organically coming to, this idea that I need to go back to college. And so I worked at the store. I did those plays and then I started taking classes a little bit at a time per semester, kind of seeing if I'm doing okay, if I can get good grades, because I had failed out of college with a terrible GPA. And piece by piece, step by step, I started to, see that I could get good grades, and that I had a more mature approach to school than I had when I first went when I was 19 years old. And I found, again, mentors or teachers who were very encouraging. And I remember a teacher, Dr. Ryan, who said to me, she asked me to be part of this panel to analyze a Toni Morrison novel. And I was the only man on the panel. And I remember that she, just said, I like the way you approach things in our class. And I think you need to understand that you can do this and you can go on to a college and get your degree. And I think this is a way to kind of build up the confidence to do so. So put me in a position and I did it, and it was great. And she helped me find my confidence to go back to college. And I got my AA degree. I applied to Florida State. And I got accepted. And it had a 1-year kind of, window where you could decide to come back. So I took a year off and I went and worked in Charlottesville, Virginia, with my best friend from high school, who was the sportscaster there at the time. He eventually became the city manager, and he was a city manager when all that shit went down with those crazy Trump people that, rammed in those white supremacists who killed that young woman. He was there. He was the city manager. My best friend still is my best friend. He's moved on to another city since, but like at the time, he was the sportscaster there in Charlottesville. So I went and lived with him. We kind of got reacquainted with our friendship. And then the year came up. And when the year came up, he said to me, it's time. You got to go back to school. You can't stay here. You're going to be stuck working at a small fucking station, and you're never going to follow your dreams, and you're never going to see if you can do it. And I can see already 30 years from now, you're still working at that NBC station, just moving up the ranks, never making that much, but having a comfortable life, and always regretting that you never took a chance to go and find out what you could be. So that was the motive. And he said, and you can't live in our apartment. And the way I'm going to do this is to make sure you don't sign the lease. Since I'm the main owner of the apartment or main leasee, I'm not going to let you stay as my roommate. So in a way, he was kind of motivating me to get out there and take the chance to go to Florida State. And that's what I did. I went to Florida State in 97. And that's where I met, Harloff and Mike Vogel and Shannon McClung, who are the geek buddies. And it led me down this path of acting and film. So, yeah.
Man, that's a good friend.
Yeah. And that's why we're still best friends. And, he unsettles a lot of people because he's got a commanding presence. It's when he walks into a room, he's very self-composed, very confident guy. But me and him, we regress back to being teenagers, because that's where we became friends when we were 15 years old in high school. And we'll always text each other Eddie Murphy jokes, or we'll text each other lines from movies or some stuff from musicals. And it's, when everyone else is overwhelmed by a guy like that, and me and Mo can just hang out and shoot the shit, I love it. He's a very good friend. As I said, I've been very lucky to have incredible people in my life who've been friends, family, mentors, and what have you. So, yeah.
Now, you say you met Christian down there at Florida State.
Yeah.
Do you remember the very first time that you saw and met him?
Yeah.
Like, remember what that interaction was like?
I think we met because at this point I'm 27 years old when I go back to college. And I think we met. I'm still in the service, by the way. I'd finished out my 8 years, but I think we met one time outside in the hallway of a general assembly because Christian was in a theater school. He was going to school for theater. And if I remember correctly, there was something about his, like I think he was in a group of people that I knew a couple of those people. So I just walked up and started talking to them, and then they introduced me to him. And he was always an opinionated East Coast guy. So I kind of gravitated to that because I have that sensibility as well. And so immediately, I think we could sense that there was a kinship and understanding amongst all, quote unquote, the theater kids. There was two dudes who like saw past the facade of the theater thing and understood that there was a real world out there that these kids weren't even remotely considering as they were going to college. And so we became friends, and we didn't hang out all the time or anything like that, but we were always friendly to each other. And if we'd maybe get a piece of pizza or something like that, or hang out every once in a while, but, we became friends. So, and we knew each other all through the time we were there at college.
Now, when you finish up with your college down there in Florida,
Yeah.
That when you make the move to California, or were there other stops between there and California?
No. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I graduated in, I think 99, officially in 2000, but I graduated in 99. I had to wait for them to approve my foreign language thing. I had to like test out of it with my Spanish. So I had to wait for them to approve it before I finally was officially given the certificate. But in the meantime, I started a production company and directed 3 plays down there and made enough money from the profits of the plays and the good reviews and the reactions from a great. And by the way, Tallahassee is a fantastic city. It's very supportive of the arts. I have nothing but warm feelings about being in that city. That city and that experience at college changed my life. I mean, I got to go to football games. I met lifelong friends. I got to discover that I could really do this as an actor. I studied in London through their exchange program for 6 months. They just broadened my world completely. So whatever I did to put me in that position to end up at Florida State, I can have no regrets of all the decisions I made because they led me to an incredible life-changing experience over those 3.5 years. And to end the time there, I started my own production company and was able to direct Titus Andronicus, Glengarry Glen Ross, and 12 Angry Men, and made enough money off those plays to fund my move to Los Angeles. And that's when I came out. And some of my friends had come out ahead of time, so they kind of gave me the lay of the land. And I stayed on Michael's couch when I first moved out here for like 2 weeks till my friend at the time, Edgar, and I got a 2-bedroom apartment in LA in West Hollywood. And from there, I stayed until I moved last year. As we're recording this, I'm about 2 or 3 weeks away from officially being 1 year in San Diego, but I was in LA for 20 years, from 2000 to 2020. So yeah.
What was your first steady job when you moved out here?
Temping. Fucking temping, man. If you want to call that a steady job, that's what you did because you're an actor. You come out here to be an actor. So you got to take those jobs that aren't going to keep you away from auditions. So I started temping. So I would take these jobs and then occasionally take, lunch hours to go audition or whatever. And that's what I did for the longest time. I worked for the Writers Guild. I worked for Charles Seegers, who was a producer. Over at Scripps. I worked for a number of places through these staffing agencies. And by the way, fuck all those staffing agencies because they pay you $15 an hour. They make $25 an hour off you going there. So yes, they find you the job, but they should not be clearing that much overhead because you're the one working the job, and so that was my first experience with how certain companies can like take advantage of labor and underpay them for the work they're doing. And so, yeah, I did that for a long time while I was trying to find my way as an actor and do what I could as an actor.
Now, you say the temping is the ideal thing to do to allow yourself to still do auditions and whatnot.
Hmm.
Now, my question is, and especially some of the places and some of the temp jobs you're talking about seem
Yeah.
like you're in good, like you can get some good connections there.
Oh, sure.
I'm curious if you're temping, especially in a well-connected place like that,
Yeah.
and you have an audition that comes up that you cannot work around your schedule. How common is it for aspiring actors to quit a temp job to go to one audition that they may or may not get?
Yeah, it's the deal you have to make sometimes in certain, depending on your situation. You know, I mean, some kids come out here and they've got daddy's money or mama's money, and they're fine losing a temp job. They'll go get something else. Other people like me who don't have daddy and mommy's money in the bank account have to weigh those options. Which is more important, paying my rent or taking a chance on a job that 60 other people are going to be at or 40 other people are going to be at when I have no credits? Am I going to get this job? You know, and of course, in a movie or in a TV show, you know, I'm going to take a chance on the swelling music, and you get the job, and it changes your life. But in real life, they don't make movies about the people that don't succeed. They don't make movies about the people that don't get it and took a risk and lost everything and whatever. So those are things you worry about, especially because I'm not 21. I was 29 or 30 when I first came out here, or yeah, around the 20s. So you're just like, man, you got to weigh it up. You weigh the options, because also if you leave the job or quit the job without real reason, the temp agency is real hesitant to staff you on another long-term job or somewhat long-term job, because they don't trust that you will stay. And then that looks bad on them that they staffed you knowing you might quit the job for an audition. So you had to kind of weigh it. Sometimes people would cover you. Sometimes you could say, I'll work late, which is what I was very lucky that at most of the times I could work late at the temp job to make up the hours I missed going to the audition. So, yeah.
Are you someone who ever quit a job in order to go to an audition?
No, I don't know that I ever risked a job. I ever quit a job to go to audition, but I'm not some kind of pure person, because I have quit jobs for way stupider reasons in the
Right.
past. You know, I used to be a huge March Madness person back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so when I was kind of finding my footing as I was in the reserves and, you know, doing jobs and whatever, before I landed into managing bookstores, I was doing other things. And I would quit it's a store job or a waitering job if they wouldn't let me have the first 2 weeks off of March Madness, because I watched those games from morning to night. And so at the time, college basketball was huge. And I mean huge. I know it's big now, but it was huge then. And I remember that being an obsession of mine. You know, and when you're in your 20s and you're kind of freewheeling, those are the kind of stupid decisions you can make when you're in your 20s. But, you know, obviously not when you're older, or you shouldn't be doing it when you're older.
Right. Oh, that's great. I love that. All for the March Madness, baby.
Yeah. All for the madness, baby.
Now you had already met Christian back in Florida.
Yeah.
At what point did you reconnect with Christian out in California? And also, at what time did you meet Mark Ellis?
Well, we'd seen each other around, Christian and I, because he was doing his thing, and so we'd run into each other every once in a while. He wasn't part of my crew of friends, although he was friendly with my friends from Florida State. He wasn't part of my crew of friends, so he was off building his own thing, doing stand-up, and, you know, so I'd occasionally run into him. I remember he lived, back when I was living in Hollywood, he lived 2 or 3 blocks over from me, and we randomly ran into each other. And this was right when he was starting the Schmoes Know. And I remember he was walking his dog. I can't remember the name of his dog. I think it was a little white dog he had, I think, and Christian can correct me or correct the viewers. But I think it was a little white dog he was walking. But anyway, I was just out on the stoop, just hanging out on the stoop, waiting for some food to come by. And there he came walking by, and I was like, holy shit, what's up, dude? And we just kind of caught up and talked, and he told me how he was starting this YouTube channel for criticizing movies or being a movie critic. And I was like, what? People do what? You're not Roger Ebert. You're not. Because in my mind at the time, that's how I viewed it, because I wasn't aware of YouTube in that way or social media in that way. I'd gone to YouTube, but I wasn't aware of it. So to me, it seemed like, well, give it a shot, see what happens. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't know how that's going to work. I wish him luck. And who knew how that was going to pan out for him. But yeah, so we'd occasionally run into each other and hang out and catch up and talk. And it was always good. It was always positive. And it wasn't until years later that the Schmoedown stuff happened and other stuff happened in 2015.
Yeah, and exactly how did the Schmoedown come about for you? Like, were you approached by Christian, or did you kind of say something to him, and how did you become aware of it?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, in 2015, he's the one that kind of, I've said this before, but I was coming out of a terrible relationship for 5 years with a girl I had known from high school, and it was just fucking horrible. It was the wrong person for me completely. And thank God it ended so that I could be with the woman that I'm with now. But at the time I was pretty damaged by it. And it's what led to my suicide attempt in 2016. That was a part of it. But in 2015, I was just kind of out of sorts, and Christian we'd started communicating more, and we had exchanged numbers, I think, and we'd started communicating more. I can't remember if we met it somewhere, if we found each other. I can't remember what it was that got us to start communicating a little bit more, but he reached out to me randomly because he started following me, I think, on social media, or he started seeing our Facebook. That's it. We became friends on Facebook. So we were monitoring, we were seeing each other's posts and stuff like that. Well, he, would see that I was going to Comic-Con every year with Michael and Kalinowski, who was also a Florida State guy, and Shannon, so that he would see those things. So one day, and I guess he saw that I'd been kind of dealing with the loss of the relationship and everything, the ramifications of all the abuse I'd suffered, the mental abuse I suffered in that relationship. And he just said to me, "Hey man, I'm hosting the show. It's a Star Wars show, far, far away on Geek Nation. Do you want to come and be a guest?" And I'm like, well, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm not a uber Star Wars fan like you are, dude. I'll look like an ass. And he's like, no. We want people who are like everyday Star Wars fans or casual Star Wars fans to show up and hang out and talk with us. And I'm like, all right. And that's where I met Tiffany Smith. And then eventually Christian said to me, "Hey, why don't you take over my spot? I'm going to go and do other things." And I was like, great. So Tiffany taught me the ropes. She was very kind. And remains a friend to this day. And I started watching a little bit more of what Christian was doing because I wanted to see what he was going off to do. And there was a little more of the Schmoes Know stuff and the show and everything like that. And then I saw that movie trivia competition, the first season. I saw some of those matches and I was like, oh, fuck, I know all these answers. This is easy. I fucking do this, blah, blah, blah. And so when he came to me he called me one night on the phone and he said to me, "Hey man, I'm going to take this thing. And I know you expressed to me how much you want to be a part of it. If I was ever to do it again, I'm thinking of launching this thing as a league." And I'm like, that's brilliant. And I want to have the WWE aspect of it all, the faces and heels and storylines and maybe factions down the road. And that's how early he was thinking about the idea of factions or groups or whatever. And we had a really great conversation about it. And he goes, and that's when he said to me, "But I need a heel. And I'm wondering," and you can say no, because Christian always says that. You can say no, but would you be open to doing this? And so before I even finished the question, I was like, hell yes. I want to be a part of it. I want to compete. I'm happy to play it. Because I'm not, that was another dream of mine, to be in professional wrestling, to be in WWE, be a manager or be a wrestler one day. But at that age, that dream had pretty much fallen by the wayside. So I was like, okay, well, this could be a way to do that and satisfy that. So I went and so we concocted the idea of a heel, and I had all this. I was big into Westerns, so I kind of suggested it being a Western guy, and we came through some ideas, and I think that's where the Outlaw was born, just in the conversations between me and him, and people can go back on my social media, and if you'll see, I posted a picture of me with a hat and the NWO shirt. And I said, "The Outlaw is coming," and you can't see my eyes. and it was just to kind of tease what I was going to be in the Schmoedown. And yeah, and that's kind of where it was born, through our conversations. And I had the outfits already in my head of what I wanted to be, the anonymous mask or the V for Vendetta mask with the cowboy hat, because I wanted to represent the people, and keep that piece of me still authentic and honest, that I'm of the people, but still be a heel, calling people out and pushing people's buttons, which is also kind of a part of me as well. So that's how we came up with it. Yeah.
That's amazing. God, dude. Yeah, like I said, just the outlaw character, my favorite character. There's just so many amazing things about it that I just absolutely love. And it is, I mean, someday, who knows when, but someday you will not be competing anymore in the Schmoedown. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is there anything other than playing in the Schmoedown? I think a lot of people would think managing. I think you'd make a fine manager, but is there anything other than competing that you would like to contribute to the Schmoedown after you're done playing?
Yeah, I'd like to run the Schmoedown. That's the honest truth. I think I've moved past managing, moved past being in the room. I think in my mind, one day I want to run the Schmoedown. Christian has had his ideas. I have my ideas. And I know that I could run a league. So in my mind, I think that's something that I've started to look at and consider and ponder. And so that's something that I would look at. If he was to ever step away for a little bit, let me handle the storylines, let me get a writer's room together, let me get a question writer's room together and run it, and essentially be the face to a degree. And then maybe he comes back in a year and it's a big, like storyline with us battling for the control of the league, which could be a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm kind of done with the smaller approaches to it. So that's what I've come to terms with about myself and about where I fit in the firmament of the Schmoedown. And I think being under the thumb of the league or of Christian when it comes to the league anymore is not something that appeals to me like it used to in the past, And so, and it's no disrespect to my brother, who I appreciate for giving me the opportunity and for doing incredible work with building this thing. It's that I know that my appetites are bigger than just manager or just competitor or just commissioner. There's more. And that's where I'm at mentally and emotionally. And I think that's why I'm glimpsing the end of the road, so to speak, for what I've done here. And depending on when this comes out, I announced it yesterday on FCL that I'm going to have on the Outlaw Nation show next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. PT. I'm going to have a big announcement about my future, and I'm going to have people on to talk about my time in the Schmoedown. So, and that's basically what, and I want to handle it on my terms on my show and do it my way. And so that's where I'm at right now.
Well, you are a great competitor in the Schmoedown. Your drill sergeant was correct. You're a great leader as well. And as great of a competitor as you are, though, I absolutely do think that there are much greater things that you could contribute to Schmoedown other than being a player. So I would be excited to see anything. What you're talking about would be great, but anything to help contribute to the Schmoedown, I think would be a great thing, and it would be missed if it weren't. But yes, John Rocha, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, bud.
As I had told you before, and the regular viewers know, this show is inspired by Inside the Actors Studio. I grew up watching that show. Me and my mom just love it so much. And John Lipton was absolutely amazing at his job. So in honor of the great John Lipton, I ask each of my guests here the 10 questions that he would ask his guests.
Okay.
So, John Rocha, what is your favorite word?
Well, first, let me correct you that it's James Lipton, not John Lipton. Let me correct you there, because I used to watch that show religiously as well. So you fix that in post. But
I'll let it, because we all make mistakes.
Okay. Especially me. Ask the question again.
What is your favorite word?
Oof, my favorite word. Possibility.
What is your least favorite word?
Failure, because I don't believe in it.
What turns you on?
People's joy. People's joy of things really turns me on. As a human being, seeing other people enjoy something really turns me on.
And what turns you off?
Gatekeeping.
Mm.
People telling you how to be a fan of something. People telling you how to enjoy something rather than letting everyone be individual in how they enjoy what they enjoy.
What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of my girlfriend laughing. I love the sound when I make her laugh. Yeah, it just fills my heart when I do that because I've made other people laugh, but there's something about hearing her laugh that just kind of makes me feel great.
And what sound or noise do you hate?
Any sound where a dog is being injured or hurt. That sound destroys my heart.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. What is your favorite curse word? I love this one.
In a smaller context, fuck. But in a larger context, it's fuck balls.
I love it. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I think I'd love to be senator or president, to be honest with you. I'd love to be president. Oh my God. I would love to be president. As much as it might exhaust me and turn my hair gray if I was lucky enough to get 2 terms after 8 years, just to be able to understand how this country really works, how the world really works from the inside out, I think would be so satisfying to me intellectually and emotionally.
And what profession would you not like to do?
Cleaning tables, busboy. I have such a thing about that because I see my people, my Latino people of all ages, old, young, middle age, doing that. And it breaks my heart every time I see them do that because I want to, like, if I had money, I'd be like, here, don't do this anymore. Here's $100,000. Go change your life. You know, I see my people do that and it breaks my heart because sometimes it's the only jobs they can get. And although they may take pride in it, and I totally respect that, it's just for me, I hate to see that because I feel like it keeps our people at a lower level mentally for people when they look at them, and it drives me nuts.
And finally, sir, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the place?
Your dad's been waiting for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I'd like him to say.
John, thank you so very much for your time today.
Thanks,
this is
bud.
Great getting to know you. Like I said before, behind the Schmoedown, and get more about you as a person, what you've gone through. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck in the future with
Thanks,
whatever
bud.
Schmoedown holds for you. Hopefully, no matter what, we see you working in it for a very long time.
I hope so too, man. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, dude. And I hope I wasn't too long-winded for anybody who's listening or watching. Thank you.
If they think you were, then that's on them. John Rocha, everyone. Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.
Be sure to check out Speaking of Schmoedown, a sports talk show devoted to the movie trivia. Schmoedown airs Saturdays at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, here on the Jcast Network.